Alright, welcome back everybody. I'm teacher Nathan from Writers at Work, and this morning we'll be looking at the Henry Park Prelim paper from 2021, P6 Prelim. Alright, but before we delve into that paper, let me just go through the ACS Primary 2024 paper that we left off yesterday. So I'll quickly go through the sections that we did not have time to look at yesterday first. Then we will go and look at our Henry Park paper thereafter. Okay. So yesterday we left off at the vocabulary close for ACS prelim exam paper. So let's take a look at this text first. So what will happen will be as follows. I'll read through the text with you and we'll understand the meaning of the underlined words. Once done, then we will look at the options and choose the correct answer. Alright, so starting in the passage, climate change refers to a change in the typical weather of a region over a long period of time. Scientists have observed that the Earth is getting warmer. So observe here refers to that you notice something and you regard it as significant. And the global temperature is rising. This occurrence is called global warming. So occurrence here refers to this incident or event. As human activities such as the destruction of forests and the burning of fossil fuels lead to global warming, we should all play an active role to ease this problem. So ease over here means to you want to reduce the difficulty or challenge. Do you know you can make a difference by making simple choices daily? You can conserve energy by switching off lights, fans, and your computer when they are not in use. You can also save energy by recycling properly. To do so, you need to know what items can be recycled and ensure that they are clean and dry before depositing them into the recycling bins. Depositing means to leave something somewhere. Collectively, we can help slow down climate change and save the Earth. Collectively means as a group. Alright, and with that, we have come to the end of this text. Are there any questions regarding any words in the text? If not, let's take a look at the options given to us. So firstly, the word is observe, which means that you notice something and you regard it as significant. So first question, the first option is define. Define means that you say what the meaning of the word is. So if you look at all these words and the arrow, this is actually the definition, what the word here means. Next is notice. Notice means you pay attention to something closely. Following that, we have the word accepted. Now, accepted here or accept means that you say yes to an offer. This offer can be anything from for your let's say you after PSLE you need to go to a secondary school and you accept the offer. That means you say yes to studying at a certain school. Lastly, we have overlook. That means you fail to notice something. So from here you can tell, right, that overlook is definitely wrong, because when we look at the word notice or observe, it means that you already you are trying to take note of something you think is important. All right, and there is no offer, so definitely option 3 is out. And so you can see the closest option that we have when you regard something as important is you will pay attention to it. All right, so the answer will be number 2. Too early for what, Charlene? Okay, moving on, let's take a look at question 17. When we look at the occurrence. So occurrence means something happened, a particular event or an incident. So looking at our options, first one is action. Okay. So action here means the process of doing something. Next, we have the word situation, which means the conditions that exist at a time and place. Okay. Next is outcome. Outcome means the consequence of something or how something turns out. Lastly, we have response. Response means you're looking at a verbal or written answer. That means somebody writes the answer for you on paper or tells you in person, like talk to you about it. Too early for my brain to work. It's already 10 in the morning. My goodness, on the usual school day, what time does school start? It's much earlier, right? So holidays is a time of break, but as the holiday ends, it's important to get back to the usual routine and ensure that your brain can work in the morning. All right, looking back at our question here. So we are looking at a particular incident or a particular something that happened, essentially. So looking at the options, the closest option that we'll have is number 2, because we are looking at certain conditions, certain factors that will cause something to happen. All right. Okay, moving to question 18 now. So question 18 tests you on the word ease. Okay, ease here means that you want to reduce the difficulty or challenge of something. Okay, so looking at the options, the first word that we have is absorb. Absorb means that the liquid is being soaked up. So let's say you put a piece of tissue paper on a wet floor, it absorbs the water. Next is the word assume. Assume means suppose something is the case. That means without any evidence, you come up with a conclusion. Alleviate means that you make problem less severe. While aggravate means that you make a problem worse. Oh wow, my periods in the morning are usually PE. I'm sure that you have more than one period in the morning. And even so, don't forget, if you are in primary 6, during some of my students' times, there are certain lessons like PE or the CCE that will be converted to English and other examinable subject lessons. So don't be too happy that only in the afternoon then you have lessons. Okay, Charlene? Okay, back to our question here. When we look at ease, that means you're trying to reduce the difficulty of something. Okay, over here. So looking at our options, this means that to reduce difficulty means that something will become less severe, less challenging. Okay, as such, our answer that we are looking at will be number 3, which is alleviate. Okay, let's take a look at question 19 now. So question 19 over here tests you on the word depositing or deposit. That means you leave something somewhere for storage usually. Okay, so looking at our options, the first one we have is sorting. So sorting over here means you put things in order. So if you talk about, like, for example, the postman, he sorts out the letter. That means he's putting the letters in order, maybe based on the unit number of the block. Next is settling. Settling means you pay attention to something. Okay. Sorry. Settling is to reach an agreement. I see the wrong question. You are trying to reach an agreement or a decision in something. Okay. Next, placing. Placing means you put something in position. And lastly, directing means that you are in charge of something, in charge of activity. Okay, so looking back at the question, we are interested in this word depositing. That means you put something somewhere. The closest option that we have is number 3, because there's this idea that you put something in a particular place and you just leave it there. Okay, the other options don't really have this idea of storing something somewhere. Maybe sorting does, but sorting has this idea that you're putting in order. That means you are not really like living there for good, but you are trying to make things neat. The focus is on the neatness. As such, we don't consider this for question 19 because the idea is different. Okay, last but not least, we have the word collectively. That means as a group, a whole lot of you do something together at the same time. So looking at the options, the first one is jointly. Jointly means with a group of people. Next is totally. Totally, that means something is done completely, 100%. Commonly means something is used very often or frequently. And individually means that one by one. So it's the opposite of together. Okay, so if we look back at our question, when we look at how everything is done together as one big group, definitely my only answer is number 1, because it talks about a group of people and we are doing something together. All right. Okay, with that, we have come to the end of this part of our vocabulary close. I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information first before we move on to our next few questions. Alright, if there are no further questions, we can move on to our grammar close now. Alright. Okay, let's take a look at this text. Smooth-coated otters are named after their velvety smooth coats. They are one of the 2 species found in Singapore and are the largest otters in Southeast Asia. These mammals are often spotted in mangroves and coastal areas. They search for clams, fish, and other small creatures. Okay, so first thing is we observe these places. So now we are replacing a word. We need a pronoun to replace these places. So we will use where. Okay. They wet paws that are highly adapted swimming. So now you can see this is plural. Next thing we observe, the whole text so far it's in present tense. As such, present tense and plural we will use they have wet paws. And when we talk about how they are highly adapted or they are highly developed, and they elaborate further that is for swimming. The preposition that we'll use is highly adapted. Here will be for swimming. Okay, then it goes on further to talk about how they are playful creatures and like to swim in packs of 4-12 while chasing after fish. So you can see for question 32 here, they are looking at a range 4 and 12. So this is the lowest number and this is the highest number. Right? Range of numbers. So we'll say 4 to 12. Otters most regularly seen at wetlands in the past. So over here you can see the first keyword is otters, which is plural. Next thing we observe is in the past. So this means that it must be in the past tense here. As such, we'll say the otters were. Okay. The years, there have been frequent sightings reported all over the island. So for question 34 here, we are looking at how as time passes, certain changes has occurred, which is here the frequent sightings all over the island. So when we want to emphasize the fact that the otters have been moving to different places as time passes, we'll say over the years. Okay, and they tell you that the otters can be found everywhere, including the Marina Bay Financial District. Now it goes on further to talk about how it's natural to be curious when you chance otters. So when you chance, that means you come across something. You come across or you encounter something. So when you chance, you always will be you chance upon something. The upon here is because like your eyes will look at that particular object, which is in this case is the otters. Okay, so this is a preposition. It's rarely used, but you still need to understand the idea, all right, and how it is used, all right, because this is also commonly tested in the later papers, especially 2024. Okay, so going too close may frighten them. Avoid talking loudly or using flash photography. Noise and light may scare and provoke them. So you can see they tell you this fact And the reason is here. So we'll say as the noise and light may scare and provoke them. If you take your dog for a walk, you dash keep it on a leash. So over here, they are telling you this is an obligation. So whether you like it or not, there is this rule that you follow. So we will use the modal auxiliary verb should because it can convey obligation. Okay, dash this happens, the author may attack our fear. So we are looking at this particular scenario where the dogs chase and frighten the author. It's a particular event. Okay, so we'll say when this happens. Alright, and with that, we have come to the end of this grammar cloaks. I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information before we move on further. Alright, if there are no further questions, okay, 8th gig, yep, I'm teacher Nathan. Okay, let's move on to some editing questions now. So our editing passage is as follows. The smell of sea always reminds me of my fishing trips with father as a child. I would ride his pillion on his motorcycle to the usual fishing spot once a week. There I would dash on a picnic mat and read a book. So over here, you can see that when you have the past tense would, it needs to be followed by your base form, okay, which means present tense and plural. Lay here is past tense, so it'll be you lie on the picnic mat and read a book. Occasionally, I would be tasked to search for live bait. So occasionally is spelled this way. Okay, and you remember digging the soil. Can you see this is in the continuous form? You can see when you have the word and, that means that these two verbs need to be in the same continuous form. So you'll be pulling out the earthworms with my bare fingers. And whenever I discovered one, I used to squeal in delight, and my father would nod at me approvingly. So squeal is spelled this way. Yeah, like that. Spelling error, okay? This is quite a common word, and you can use these three words together for your composition. Okay, it's like a show not tell phrase to emphasize that you are very excited. Okay, as I got older, my father dashed me to attach earthworms onto fishing hooks. So you can see that I got older. This text and this sentence is in past tense. As such, our answer here needs to be in past tense. Allow is present tense. Okay, so we will be allowed. Simple. Okay, I learned the hard way that the fishing hooks could catch onto my clothes, hair, and even skin if I was not careful. And the fact of removing them. This is just one action, singular. Okay, and over here, this is a fact. So, present tense. So, the act of removing them is painful and difficult. My father also taught me how to use dried radish tied to a string to lure little crabs from their hiding holes. Catching these crabs required me to stay very still. So this is a spelling error. So this is how you spell required. The minute I felt the slide, you can see this is a comparative word. Okay. So take note, when you have the, needs to be in the superlative form. Therefore, it will be slightest. The slightest tug. You need to pull and you need to quickly position a pail below the crab and let it drop on the pail. Once I took my catch home and dashed the pail of crabs in the kitchen overnight uncovered. So you can see over here, this took is in past tense. As such, you left the pail uncovered. Okay, so during science lesson the next day, you felt something pinch my leg and you let out a ear piercing scream. So piercing is spelled wrongly here. So it will be ear piercing. Alright. And commotion ensued in the class. So commotion is also a spelling error. This is how you spell commotion. And lastly, the crab had apparently crawled out of my back. So apparently will be spelled this way. Alright. So I'll say this text is rather straightforward. Okay, I'll just leave this here for a bit, and if you have any questions, do feel free to ask me. Alright, if there are no further questions, let's move on to our comprehension close. Okay, so the text reads, imagine a world where everyone stands up for what is right. That world begins with us. Dash and every one of us can make the world a better place by being an upstander. So you can see there's the word everyone, and now they're trying to emphasize the fact that every individual can make a difference. Okay, so the phrase will always be each and every one. Okay, it's always together like this. Being an upstander means having compassion towards our peers who have dash bullied. When you have, you always be followed by have been to show that the action took place already. Okay, I'll write here, completed action. When we put dash in someone else's shoes, so we are trying to empathize, right? We would then realize that we would not want to be teased or excluded. So when we put, this would be referring to the we. Okay, so here we put ourselves. Okay, so you're trying to empathize with them, you're trying to understand the feelings of other people who have been unfortunately bullied. Okay, we would, hence all of us should look out for one another and dash no one gets hurt. So you want to prevent this. And you want to make sure that it is successful. So we will say you want to ensure no one gets hurt. Okay, like a superhero without a cape, upstanders speak dash when they recognize that something is not right. So you can see when you think something is not right, you are expected to just talk, tell people that no, you should not be doing this. So this is a phrasal verb here. And this phrasal verb is you speak up for yourself. Okay, even if you are unsure of this phrasal verb, you realize there's something called upstander. Why is it called upstander? Because they stand up. So this clue will also guide you for this answer here, to speak up for yourself. Okay, dash from noticing wrongdoings, upstanders take action to make things right. So you can see they notice the wrongdoing and they also do this to make things right. So you can see these two ideas are similar. Okay, I'll just write here, two similar ideas. And you have the word from. So these two words that are boxed up for question 56 is a conjunction. Alright, so there's only one answer, which is apart from. Because of the word from, it limits your answer. Okay, if without the word from, you can use things like besides, noticing wrongdoings, things for other conjunctions. Alright, let's move on. On the other hand, bystanders usually do not take action due to their fear of being the next victim. They also may not know dash to manage the situation. So when you want to manage the situation, you need certain methods, right? Certain strategies to help people. So it will be you do not know how to manage, because how here suggests a particular method. Hence, bystanders merely observe events and situations dash interfering, while outstanders will report wrongdoings and offer support to the victims. So you can see while here shows a kind of contrast. Okay, to show that the upstander would report wrongdoing, the contrast is here, which is without interfering. That means they do not do anything. Alright, so I just write here, for the bystander, they do not do anything. While the upstander, as you observe here, they take action. That is the contrast that we are interested in. We should therefore always choose to help the victims. It dash courage to be an upstander. I remember a time when I saw a classmate crying after being teased during recess. So you can see, courage. This is necessary. This is something you need to possess in order to be the outstander. So we'll say it requires courage to be an upstander. And you can see the writer did not just watch, but he walked over and comforted the boy. So we are looking at two alternatives, like two options, and how the author chose the second option here. Okay, so they did not choose the first option. Okay, so the conjunction to show two alternatives and how you choose the better one, we will say instead of. Okay, this take note, this word here, instead of, here already tells you a certain clue and it limits the answer that you can give. So let's just draw the arrows to be aware. Okay. Later, I dashed my teacher about the incident. So you can see the teacher needs to know about this. You're trying to pass information. Okay, so you will say, I inform my teacher about the incident. Okay, or I told my teacher about the incident will also be accepted. Okay, so long as this idea that the information is made known will do. That courageous dash not only made a difference to my classmate, but it inspired others to do the same. So you can see what did the author do is this part here. The whole incident and how the author dealt with it. Okay, so this courageous, you could say action not only made a difference, or you could also talk about intervention. That means when someone is being bullied, you quickly go in and say, stop, you should not be doing this. After that, then you make things right. That's called intervention. Alright? We create a ripple dash when we are upstanders. So the idea here is ripple. It's like when you throw a stone in a pond, the water will start moving. They are called ripple. And we are looking at the kind of what happens after. Therefore, it's always known as the ripple effect. Okay? When we are upstanders, know that you are not alone, as when others see you being an upstander, they will dash suit. By supporting each other, we dash create a caring community. So for question 64 here, suit, that means they would do the same thing. As such, we will usually say that we will follow suit. That means they would look at what you are doing and say, I also want to do the same thing. After that, they will follow. Okay. By supporting each other, we dash create a caring community. So over here, we are looking at a modal auxiliary verb. And how there is this potential, there's this good thing that we can do, right? This potential. So we'll say we can create a caring community. Alright, and with that, we have come to the end of this part of the paper. I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information before we move on. Are there any further questions? If not, we'll be moving on to our 2021 paper now. Okay, so today we are looking at 2021 Henry Park paper for the morning session. Okay, so let's take a look at some grammar questions first, okay? Okay, Ali. Okay, so the first question is Ali, together with his cousins, dash at the old folks home weekly. Okay, so the first thing that we need to take note is Ali. This is a singular subject. Next thing we observe is the word weekly, which tells me it is a habit. Therefore, present tense. Okay, so these two clues will tell me that the answer is number 2. They volunteers. Together with cousin, you can see that there are 2 commas, which tells me that this is extra info that I would ignore. Alright, volunteer and volunteers, these two are present tense. Just take note that volunteers here is singular, while volunteer is for plural. Next is volunteering. This is known as your present continuous tense, which means that my action is ongoing at the time of speaking. Okay. Now the next thing we observe is have volunteered. This one is a present perfect tense, which means that my action is completed, but the effect is still felt. So for example, I can say Ali and his cousins have volunteered at the community center and they want to do more. So it tells me that this action of volunteering, helping out with some event, is completed. However, he enjoys it so much. Maybe the people he meets there, the experience, the satisfaction would encourage him to continue, recalling the incident and trying to find more opportunities. That's what is meant by effect is still felt. Okay? Okay, this is a very straightforward tenses question. Okay? Now let's move on further. The sales girl said she was giving a discount for this bag. Dash. Davy asked. So it's a very standard question tag question. So you just identify she was giving. Said she sorry, give me a moment. Okay, so for this question here, it's very tricky. So are we looking at this was giving and wasn't she? So what is it, the fact that that the girl is this action of giving the discount? Or is it the fact that the girl said something? Saying something. Okay, so you need to be very clear. So the answer is, we are looking at this, the girl saying something. As such, it would be she did say something. So this is a positive connotation, and my negative connotation at the back would be didn't she? And therefore the answer is number 4. Now you can observe everything here is in past tense. So for some of the papers which are slightly easier, you just eliminate those that are in the present tense for your options. Okay, but unfortunately, in this case, we don't have the present tense. Okay, this is a very, very tricky question that I hope our friends can remember and revise before your examinations again. Okay, Moving on, let's take a look at question 3. Are we watching this movie? I've heard Dash contradicting reviews about it. He asked his friends. Okay, so we are interested in determiners here. Determiners are basically your words to show quantity. Okay, QTY means quantity. Now, the first thing we observe is reviews. Reviews here is countable and it is also of high quantity because it is plural, reviews. Alright, so these two criteria would point us to I heard many contradicting reviews. So the answer is number 3. Okay, looking at the other options, few here is countable. I have a few toy cars in the drawer, countable. Next, when we talk about little, little here is uncountable. He put in little effort in his homework. Much is also uncountable. It's too much of a burden for me to do something. Okay? This is a very straightforward question and it always comes out for every examination. So our friends, we need to be very clear and careful, okay, not to get this mistake. Not to make any mistakes for this kind of question. Alright, let's move on further to question 4. Mrs. Lim made some healthy sandwiches for her nephews and a cup of coffee for Dash. So we are looking at Mrs. Lim making the cup of coffee. So this coffee belongs to Mrs. Lim. So we will say make a cup for herself. So over here, what is this called? These are known as intensive pronouns. Okay, all these with the self. Okay, so intensive pronouns basically stresses on the noun or pronoun it refers to. So in this case, it's referring to the person, Mrs. Lim. Alright, let's take a look at question 5 now. Dash the time she won the award, Kim has been receiving numerous jobs offers. So we are looking at a preposition here. So prepositions are these words that convey a certain meaning about a position, a location, or time periods. Okay, with relation to our nouns or pronouns in the question. So looking at the keyword, we are looking at time. And the time is very specific. After she won the award until now. Okay, so looking at our options, the first one is at. Okay, at here means a particular location. He is at the clinic now. It's very specific. By shows a source or a method. I went to school by car. That's a method. Mother, the chicken rice was bought by mother. Source. From here refers to a time period in the past till now. Okay, so we are looking at this specific period of time. Lastly, upon. Upon here means something happens soon after. Upon the ringing of the recess bell, all the students rush to the canteen. Okay, so we are looking at after what happened. Alright, so you can see that number 1 and 2 are out because they don't talk about time. Number 3 and 4 are what we are interested in. So you can see the time period from winning an award till present. So we are not looking at just something that happened after the award. We are looking at this whole period of time. As such, the closest answer that we have could be number 3. Alright, so with that, we have come to the end of this first part of our grammar section. Okay, I'll just leave this here for a while. If you have any questions, do feel free to ask me, and if you need me to zoom in, do sound out too. All right. If everybody is all right so far, then let's move on to our next 5 questions of grammar. Okay, so the first question here. These days, the routine of washing our hands and taking our temperature dash an integral part of our daily lives. So first thing we observe is the routine. Routine here is singular, it's just one action. Next thing we observe is integral part of our lives, which tells me this is a habit. Habit will always be in the present tense. As such, these 2 clues will point me to the answer, which is number 1. Okay, moving on. Let's take a look at question 7. You dash melt the butter before adding it to the rest of the ingredients. Okay, so over here, you can see this is a step-by-step process of cooking. So melt the butter before you can do something else. So this is step 1. Followed by here, step 2. Okay. As such, we can see that there's the need to do this. Okay, so we are looking at prepositions here. So we are looking at the preposition to highlight the fact that you need to carry out a certain step first before moving on. Okay, so looking at our options. The first one we have is might. Might here shows the possibility of action carried out. It might rain tonight. Okay, that's a possibility. When you talk about ought, it means that there is an obligation to do something. You ought to greet the teacher when you see her. Okay, so we are saying that as a student, you have this responsibility to do something, which is to treat your teacher with respect. Would here means you want to offer advice. I would report the missing IC to the teacher if I were you. Okay, I'll be offering you, telling you what to do if I was in a particular situation. Okay, and lastly, should means the need to do something. Okay, and you can see this is something that the author needs to complete before moving to step 2. So our answer is number 4. Alright, let's move on further. So now we have question 8. It was a horrible accident. I don't know that it happened, but when I got there, there were debris everywhere. Okay, so you can see accident. And next one is happen. So we are looking at a certain time period where an unfortunate incident took place. Okay, and what we have here are known as your question words. Okay, so these are words that highlight or are used when you are asking a question, and after that you will elicit. That means you will be able to gain certain answers. So when you use what, you're trying to elaborate on something. So it's an elaboration. What did you do this afternoon? So I'm interested in elaborating on your activities. When shows a certain time period where something happened. Which is used for non-humans. This is a pronoun. Okay, so for example, the building which collapsed yesterday was slated to be demolished next year. That means nobody staying inside. Lastly, where? Where shows the location? Where are the children now? Okay, so in this case here, we are looking at a time period where we do something. As such, the answer will be number 2. Okay, moving to question 9. Neither Miss Tan nor her brothers dash taken part in a marathon before. So for question 9 here, we are looking at brothers because we are using the rule of proximity. Okay, so this would be plural, and you can see before, which means the action must be completed, or in this case not completed. It cannot be ongoing. So the first cut, plural, has and is are out. It's not completed, right? Now if you say taken part, taken, it happened in the past. Okay, so we are looking at so this is past tense. Then have taken here is in the present perfect tense. Okay, so what's the difference? Present perfect means that the effect is still being felt. Okay, while past tense means that the action is already completed in the past. Okay, so definitely we will not be using number 2 because they haven't done this action ever before. That means in the past they would definitely not have run a marathon. Now, what's this effect being felt? So this effect is referring to how the Miss Tan and her brothers may have some kind of reservations about running a marathon. So if you offer them the opportunity, they may say like, no, I don't want to do this. All right, and therefore my answer would be number 4. Okay, let's move on further to question 10. Dash his illness, Sebastian could not attend his friend's birthday party. So over here, we are looking at this reason, and this is the effect. Could not attend the birthday party. So looking at our options, they are all known as conjunctions. So conjunctions are words to link different pieces of information together. Okay, so first thing is owing to. Owing to shows a cause-effect relationship. Okay. Next, despite of, this shows contrast. Giving rise to shows you are looking at a cause, or rather you are looking at the effect. So for example, you can talk about how when we look at how where there's a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, it gives rise to global warming. So we're looking at a particular effect. Resulting from is also used to show certain effects. Okay, so resulting from the cancellation of the match, many of the sportsmen were left in the lurch. That means they don't know what to do. All right. Okay, so this case, when we look at cause effect, the answer will be number 1. And with that, we have come to the end of this part of our grammar, the next 5 questions of grammar. Okay, I'll just leave this here for a while, such that if you have any questions, you can take a look and take in the information first before we move on to our next section. Alright, if there are no further questions, we'll move on further for this part, and let's take a look at the synthesis and transformation questions today. Alright, so you can see the first question is your classic question. Okay, So it goes, Jane likes classical music. She likes pop music more. So which one is her number one choice? Pop music. And number two is classical. Okay, so in order to use prefers, we need to have the linking word to. So she prefers pop music to classical music. Okay, so this is a very straightforward question that I expect my students to get full marks. Okay, next question. He was anxious. He started during his presentation. So you can see this is the reason and this is the effect. He started. So when you have due to, it will mean that you need to have your reason first, then you have a comma followed by the effect. So it will be due to his anxiety. Now take note, anxious and anxiety, these two are different word form. Anxious is an adjective, so you're describing him to be anxious. But now we're looking at his anxiety, it's a noun. Okay, so this change needs to occur. Why is this so? Because we're looking at these various, we're looking at this feeling now. Okay, so not so much about describing him to be anxious, but this inherent feeling of anxiety. And we just copy the back part because it's still the same. Okay. Now, question 68. Father asked me, what did you buy for mother for her birthday? So you can see the first thing we observe is ask. This is in the past tense. Now, so over here, what you buy, what did you buy? So what she had bought for mother for her birthday. So it'll be, ask me what she had bought for mother for her birthday. Alright, so for this kind of question, I always will emphasize on my timeline. Okay, so I have a present, a past, and a participle. So it will be buy, bought, and had bought. So the first thing we observe is this is already in the past tense. So we are here. So when we move back one time period, it will be the participle tense, participle form. So I always will look at this part first, my tense. After I look at my tense, then I look at my verb. So you can see the corresponding verb is here, had bought, which is here. Okay, so I urge everybody to be very careful when we do this kind of direct to reported speech questions. Okay, moving on, let's take a look at question 69. Only Jane and John do not like swimming. So when you have this word everyone, you need to be very careful because everyone would signify it is a singular subject now. So everyone, you can see with the exception of here, these two individuals, Jane and John. Now, so your singular subject will affect here, the back part. Then it will be likes swimming. Okay, so just take note of this part and be careful. Now, let's take a look at the last question. John knows who stole the wallet. He does not want to reveal anything. And you are given the word despite. So despite over here is used to show contrast. And when we have the word despite, we need the now to follow behind. Okay, so it will be despite knowing who stole the wallet. John does not want to reveal review anything. Okay. So the idea is here knowing. Okay, so I'm just interested in this now, this knowledge of something. Okay. However, when we use although, it needs to be followed with a clause. That means you need your noun plus verb. Okay. So for despite, there is no rule as such. Usually it's just your verb. Sorry, let me correct myself. It's your verb here. Okay, this act of knowing, your action word. Okay, I just correct myself. It's the verb, which is knowing. But although needs the noun and the verb. Your noun is like your human or your object. Your verb here is your action word. Okay. Okay, we are done with our synthesis and transformation here. I'll just give everyone some time to take in the information first. Alright, if there are no further questions, thank you so much for joining me this morning on our Writers at Work TikTok session. I'm Teacher Nathan. Okay, so do catch me this afternoon at 2:30 p.m. We'll be looking at more P6 papers from Prelim. And if you have friends who are in the secondary school, especially Sec 3 and Sec 4, do encourage them to join me later at about 12:15 p.m. We'll be looking at some O-level paper, especially the paper 2 segment. Alright? If not, I'll see you guys around. Bye bye.